all know we're not supposed to cheat on the person we're dating for obvious reasons. However, I do think, just kidding, I'm not going to give you an argument for cheating. I am going to give you an argument for not cheating that you probably haven't thought about before. I'm comedian Hannah Anderson. I co-host a podcast with the private investigator Mackenzie Foltz called The Dating Detectives, where we talk about dating scams so you can avoid them. And we just heard a really messed up story. And I do want you to be warned that there are some topics that are difficult. So if you are not in a place to listen to it, I totally understand. I need to tell you about it. Let's get into it. So there is a woman who we're going to call Nancy. Her husband essentially checks out of their marriage. She comes from a family where no one's been divorced. It's a huge value for her to keep the marriage working no matter what. She tries her best. Unfortunately, she ends up straying. She will be the first to tell you this was not the right thing to do. But as you will see, when she cheats, something happens to her that no one deserves, no matter what mistakes they make. She becomes friendly with a guy named Brian. He fills all of her unmet needs in their friendship, so they hook up. Good for Brian. Brian starts pushing for them to be more than just a casual friendship with a little bit of smoochy. Nancy is not interested. She shuts that down. Meanwhile, she gets a message on Facebook from a random guy named Danny, who says they had a lot of fun together the other night and she was really drunk. He says, I really miss seeing you at the bar. Are you still working over there? So she's like, maybe I did meet this person when I was really drunk, even though I don't usually get like that. He sends her a picture of himself. He's a police officer. She starts chatting with this Danny. I think we can all relate to feeling lonely and maybe chatting with somebody on a dating app that's not even sexual, just kind of entertaining. And you're like, all right, this will do for the night. This probably won't be a surprise for you, but eventually Danny sends a dick pic and he wants Nancy to send a picture too. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. No. He's like, please, your body's a wonderland. One night, she's had a little tequila. She sends one nude. The next day, she feels weird about it. Then some other stuff happens, but for the sake of our attention spans, not too long after that, she decides to call it off with Danny. That's when blackmail comes in. He says, I have this photo of you, and if you don't do what I say, I will send it to your husband, I will send it to your father, and I need you to come meet me at a bar. Keep in mind they've never met in person before, except for when he allegedly says they hung out before he messaged her. This is illegal and sexually abusive, in case you're wondering. Nancy is obviously terrified. She decides to do what he says and meet him at the bar. No idea what he's gonna hold over her or what he'll make her do. She goes where he tells her to, she walks in, and Brian's sitting there. Huh? You might have suspicions already, but let me tell you, there's so much more to this story. Nancy told the whole story on the Dating Detectives podcast, and you can listen to it from her point of view, which I encourage you to do. I'm sorry that I'm not telling you the entire thing in this social media clip, but it's not appropriate for social media in my opinion because the story requires a lot of nuance, and if you're not in a place to listen to it, I totally get that. I think it's important because we can be taken advantage of when we're at our most vulnerable, and Nancy absolutely was. There's definitely a twist at the story. Maybe some of you can guess it already, but I want to thank Nancy for being brave enough to share the story because it will help a lot of people be more empowered as they navigate relationships. I am not saying this is your fault if you cheat and this happens to you, or if you do anything and this happens to you. I'm just trying to help y'all not have it happen to you. Let me know if you listen and trust your intuition.